Thank you, Mr. Speaker. We know from polling that most Americans have no idea what sequester means at all. In fact, one of our colleagues said that she was speaking to a constituent who said, "Oh yes, I am all for sequester. Let's sequester all the members of Congress in a room and make sure that they come up with a plan." That's not exactly the idea. The sequester, which most Americans are really not, they don't know the definition, actually means that for domestic discretionary spending, the things that help ordinary people and communities and law enforcement, about a 9% across the board cut. Just a meat-axe approach. You can't even decide whether you can cut something from going to conferences but leave in the National Institutes of Health research into cancer. No, everything is going to be across the board, a real meat-axe approach, and about 13% across the board cut in military spending. That's what we're talking about. And if people aren't following exactly what the definition is, they're going to soon find out what it means in their ordinary life. In education, we're going to see cuts that are going to require the firing of teachers. About 70,000 little children are not going to be able to have their Head Start programs. Small businesses are going to find that almost $1 billion, $900 million, will be unavailable to them in loans for their small businesses. We're going to lose about 2,100 food safety inspectors. How does that feel? That we won't know for sure if we're going to have the same kind of safe food that's available. And we've all been talking about the need for more mental health services around this whole issue of gun violence. And it's predicted that about 373,000 adults and children who need mental health services won't find them available. Military readiness will be affected. We got some data on every state. My state is Illinois. Approximately 14,000 Civil Department of Defense employees are going to be furloughed under the sequester. And that means reducing the gross pay that comes to them, citizens of Illinois, by $83.5 million. That's money that they won't be able to spend in our economy. Base operation funding, Army bases, will be cut about $19 million in Illinois, and funding for Air Force operations about $7 million. These are real cuts in military readiness. Vaccines for children. Really? Does anybody really think that the way to save on our budget is to cut the availability of vaccines for little children? And does anybody really think that the burden of cutting the deficit should be on the backs of senior citizens? You know what the median income for people over 65 years old is? $22,000 a year. And the average Social Security benefit is $15,000 a year and provides most of the income for most of the seniors in this country. Really? Does anybody think there isn't one tax loophole that can be closed? Not one more penny that huge and profitable corporations that often pay no taxes. We have some of those huge corporations paying no taxes, outsourcing jobs, setting up their corporate headquarters in post office boxes in the Cayman Islands. Some of them are getting actually tax breaks, refunds from the government. That they can't pay something, that multi-millionaires and billionaires can't pay a penny more, but that we can cut the National Institutes of Health and research for finding cancer cures, that new drug approvals ought to be cut, that we ought to cut veteran services, that people just ought to wait longer at airports. We should even shut down some airports because we're going to have to furlough the air traffic controllers, that we should cut Meals on Wheels for senior citizens, that that's really the preferable way to go. I have to tell you, this is just a crazy way to do business in the United States Congress, particularly since we have sensible alternatives. We have not seen one bill from the Republican side of the aisle that says, here's our idea instead of these meat axe cuts that are going to hurt people. And the Democrats have several bills we should be hearing on this floor. I yield back.
Gentlelady's time has expired. The chair